Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are making Arabians Tonka by Montale. This is a formula I got from Reddit, and the person who posted it absolutely loves this formula. They say it's not 100%, but it's pretty close, maybe 95, 98%. Arabians Tonka was released in 2019. I don't see who the perfumer is. And there are a lot of notes in here, or there's a couple notes in here, for which I do not see any ingredients. The first being tonka. I don't see any tonka bean. I don't see any coumarin in this particular formula. So we're going to see how that goes. I also don't see, it says there's oud in this formula, or I'm sorry, in this juice, but you can buy this stuff for 80 bucks for 100 mils. I doubt there's any real oud in here. So we're going to see how it goes. If we take a look at the structure of this formula, it's, I would say, balanced in that, we've got 20% in ambers, 28% in musk, 16%, most of that is Isoe super. We have, 7% here, that's in Veramoss or Evernyl. It's a pretty good blend. We've got a lot of Hedione, 17% is in Hedione. There is a pretty good blend of materials here. I'm excited to put this together. Again, the person who posted it said it smells amazing. And this fragrance has a reputation for being very strong. So we are going to see how that goes. Now, we are going to start with the base of the most concentrated materials. Now, first up, Norlimbanol. And this might be the second formula in a row where Norlimbanol is a substantial amount of the formula, of the concentrate. Norlimbanol here, yeah, the stuff is thick, is just under 9% of the concentrate. All right. Norlimbanol is a super amber. It's dry, it's woody, it's ambery, and it's very thick. Okay. We've got our Norlimbanol. Let's move down to the Isoe super. About 16% of the concentrate is in Isoe super. Another dry, woody amber. A very good blender. Required for beginner perfumers. This is a required material. Now I'm afraid when we get to smell this, it's going to be tough because that was neat. Norlimbanol was neat. The Hedione is at 50%. What I mean to say is that this is going to stick on a strip. Okay. Here we go, Hedione. This is normal Hedione, not Hedione HC. Not Curry Small. And again, about 17% of the formula, of the concentrate, is in Hedione. Okay. Got three more. We're going to be moving to musks. Next up, Galaxolide 50. I know I've said this before, but if you are just starting and you're looking at buying Galaxolide, just get Galaxolide 50, a pre-diluted Galaxolide. If you get it neat at 100% concentrate, it is very thick, very hard to work with, and you would need a hot plate. You would need a hot plate to work with it. Galaxolide, however, is in everything. Everything. A lot of laundry detergents. I believe there's talk of banning or restricting Galaxolide because it doesn't decompose in nature, which is terrible. But I suppose there's a lot of things that don't decompose in nature. You know, like plastic. Next up, Ethylene Brassylate. Though California is banning plastic straws, plastic bags, I'm not in California, but you know, some states are taking action here in the US of A. Okay, Ethylene Brassylate. When I smell Ethylene Brassylate, if I remember correctly, I'm just reminded of Jovan Musk, the actual fragrance. I think I've got it in my notes somewhere. It's either this or Helvetilide. But one of these, it just triggers that memory of smelling Jovan Musk. Or is it Jovan Musk? But there's a cheapy musk fragrance out there that must be just stacked with some of these musk molecules. Okay, we got two more. Exaltolide. So there was 9% of the concentrate was in ethylene brassylate. 9% of the concentrate was in Galaxolide. Now we've got 3%, roughly, in Exaltolide. Exaltolide is a little bit different than Exaltolide Total. But if you have Exaltolide Total, it will work just fine. Supposedly, it's a little less refined, Exaltolide Total, than its non-total counterpart. Similar to how Damascenone is a bit more refined than Damascenone Total. And next up, and interestingly, Musk Ketone. Is this the last of the nitro musks that is still able to be used? Yeah, the nitro musks are interesting because they have a real fattiness to them. All right, now my Musk Ketone, I believe, is in DPG. I need to check my notes, but this 10% dilution is a little bit heavier per drop than my normal musk materials. Okay. Interested to smell what that is like. It's been a while since I've used Musk Ketone. I dare to say there are a couple formulas where I've used Musk Ambrette and Musk Xylene or Musk Xylol. Though Musk Ambrette and Musk Xylene are now banned, at least for fine fragrance. You can't apply them to the skin anymore. Something about neurotoxicity and the inability for your body to clear it. It stays in your cells. What am I doing? We're going to dip. We are going to dip. Okay, just a little bit, because that is a highly concentrated concentrate. And of course, I don't have a pen when I need one. Here we go. All right, we're going to call this base. Base 1. I think we're off to a good start. I think we are off to a good start. Okay. Next up, let's add our ambers. There are a lot of amber materials. We have a lot of super ambers. Amber Xtreme, Ambrocenide. Then we have a little bit more calm Ambroxan and Cedramber. We've already added our Norlimbanol. And then we're going to add Cashmeran. It's a mix between a musk and an amber. Let's start with a Cashmeran. At least I think IFF puts this in between musk and amber. To my nose, it's a bit more metallic. It cuts. It's not quite as warm and golden as say Ambroxan or Cedramber, but it's almost 5% of the concentrate. There are substantial amounts of cashmere in here, which is great. It'll help the fragrance push. It'll help it cut. Cashmeran is strong, but it's not offensive. There's safranal in here. Safranal can be offensive if you overdo it. Cumin can be offensive if you overdo it. Cashmeran, there's a bit more wiggle room. You can accidentally overdo the Cashmeran and not completely ruin your material or your fragrance. Okay, Amber Extreme. Stuff is extreme. It's dry. It is ambery, but it's got the dryness almost has a point to it. Where dryness meets ambery in my nose, there's like a very sharp point. Yeah, there we go. Amber Extreme is so strong, and it's so strong, and it is used in many fragrances, many formulas, but I have it also at a 1% concentrate or 1% dilution. Next up, Ambrocenide. This is another material that is just strong. In here, we're using it at 5% of the concentrate. Let's get a sense of Ambrocenide. I'm using it, it's 5% of the concentrate. The batch that I'm making is just shy of 9 grams, and it is going to be 17.5% concentrate. Now, Ambrocenide, as a part of the final formula, will be just under 1%. I'm looking here at other formulas I have. Ambrocenide, okay, Ambrocenide is used in similar amounts in Louis Vuitton Ombre Nomade, which we will do. It's a fantastic formula. Fantômas, Nascimato's Fantômas, at the 4 or 5% range. And then we go down to Dior Sauvage Elixir, which is around 1%. And I remember reading that Sauvage Elixir's 1% Ambrocenide is considered an overdose. You know, that's a lot of Ambrocenide. So, in any case, here we go. Ambrocenide is similar to Amber in Extreme in the amberiness, but where Amber Extreme has a dry edge, a dry point to it, Ambrocenide has more of an animalic warmth to it. Next up, a very small amount of Ambroxan. Yeah, 1/10 the amount of Ambroxan as there was Ambrocenide. Then we're going to ramp back up with Cedramber. Just over 3% of the concentrate is in Cedramber. Another wonderful, dry, woody amber. To me, Cedramber, I think Sarah McCartney puts this well. Cedramber has a knack for taking whatever it is that you have and then making it more so. If you add Cedramber, it takes what you have and it just makes it more so. So if it's vanilla bergamot, sweet, fruity, you know, and maybe some rose notes in there, you add some Cedramber and all of a sudden it's a little more sweet. It's a little more, you know, fruity, a little more rosy. Interesting way of putting it, but I suppose I can get on board with that. Okay. Let's dip. Come on. I'm disappointed with these scent strips I just got. I got these off of Amazon. They were the place that I bought them from. It was the first place I had ever purchased scent strips, and they were awesome. They were firm, you know, good cardstock or whatever. Do ambers. And then I switched to I found one that was cheaper, looked the same on the screen, and they were cheaper. And they were just a little more flimsy, not as thick. So then I decided to go back, you know, months later, because I order a lot of these. Months later, I go back to the original supplier. I think that supplier changed where they are getting their cardstock from, because it's flaccid. It's the best word for it. It's a flaccid scent strip, alas. Okay, let's move to the sweet notes. And interestingly, this is called Arabians Tonka in here. There's no Tonka, there's no coumarin, there's no lavender absolute, which might have some coumarin in it. There's nothing. So let's add our ethyl maltol, ethyl vanillin, and vanillin. We're going to start with ethyl maltol. Now, there's a lot of sweet materials in here. 3, 5, 9, 10. Yeah, there's over 10% is combined within ethyl maltol, ethyl vanillin, and vanillin. So we start with our ethyl maltol, a material I'm starting to get the hang of. My nose is starting to get the hang of. It's sweet, it's caramelic. It's a different facet of sweet than, say, vanilla or ethyl vanillin. Okay, next up, ethyl vanillin. I must say I do like ethyl vanillin more than plain vanillin. I like the lightness, sweetness of ethyl vanillin that's not there with normal vanillin. Normal vanillin's just a touch darker. I'm not sure I would say richer, but it almost has that rich connotation because it's not as light and fluffy. It's not as candied. It's more gourmand in a serious sense. Vanillin, just under 5% of the concentrate. Just a couple more drops. One more drop. Oops. Did an extra drop. Well, that still works. Still works. Great. We'll give it a shake. Then we've only got 4 more groups to go. Okay. Let's put our sweet notes. Okay. Next up, we are going to add only 2 more materials before we move on. A little bit of cedarwood and then a fair bit of Veramoss. Veramoss is over 7% of the formula. But first we're going to start with cedarwood. There's just a splash of cedarwood. Maybe it helps give a dry woodiness, but it's virtually in trace amounts here. It's not literally in trace amounts. I usually consider trace amounts being 0.01%, especially with something that's this strong. Cedarwood is not that strong. But given how not strong cedarwood is, it's interesting that it's in here at this amount. So next up, Veramoss or Evernyl. Also known as methyl atrarate, one of the main molecules, one of the odorous principles of oak moss. Now Veramoss comes as a solid, comes as a powder. And it's a bit different than vanillin, which also comes as a solid. You could say it comes as a powder, but it's more like sugar. Is sugar a powder? No. Sugar is finely granulated crystals. That's what vanilla is, or vanillin. Veramoss is more like powdered sugar. It really feels like a powder. Luckily, it dissolves easily in ethanol. Okay. Let's shake. I'm interested to smell what this is like. What adding just that much Veramoss does. Occasionally I'll be working on a formula and I'm just not sure which direction to take it. Do I add another core base note? If I have a vanilla amber that I'm working on, do I add Veramoss? Do I add certain musks? Do I add sandalwood? Something like Bactonol? So I'm interested to smell what this lineup gives us. Okay, next up, we are going to add call it floral metallic materials. There's a lot of acetates, there's a lot of linalool, we've got a little bit of dihydromyrcenol. Once we get those in, then we're going to add the more fruity floral proper materials. But let's start with, we got a little bit of dihydromyrcenol, a little bit of linalyl acetate. Let's start with those. So dihydromyrcenol, there is not a lot of this. I'm using a 1% dilution here. Occasionally, dihydromyrcenol is used in so many formulas. And occasionally it is used in trace amounts. Maybe it adds a little bit of green. Maybe it adds just a little bit of, a little ping. I don't know. But I made a 1% dilution because sometimes it's used in trace amounts. Now, next up, Linalyl Acetate. Also, not much of this. There's not much of all the stuff we're about to put in here. But I would imagine if you put all of these materials together individually, it would give you a nice, fresh, floral, metallic accord. Next up, Citronellol. Citronellol is more rosy than it is, say, metallic. But to my nose, there is a zing to this. Oh, there's not much. There is a zing. There is a metallic nature to citronellol, geranyl, nerol, linalool, ethyl linalool, linalyl acetate, so on and so forth. Next up, citronellyl acetate. Again, not much here. Citronellyl acetate, not quite as rosy It's a bit sweeter. It's not as edgy in my nose, or the edge is different. Maybe to say there's a metallic edge, but there's not as much zing. Citronellol puts a zing in my nose. Next up, Ethyl Linalool. Again, not much. There really is not much. I'm having to do half drops for all these. Ethyl Linalool is, to my nose, closer to linalool than, I'm making a bad analogy here. I was going to say ethyl linalool is closer to linalool than things like citronellyl acetate to citronellol or geranyl acetate to geranyl. And speaking of geranyl acetate, okay, just one drop of geranyl acetate. Got one more. That'll be linalool. Just one drop of linalool. Okay. That was fast. That was fast. We'll give this a shake, a dip, and then, my friends, we have 2 more groups to go. We have 7 more materials. That's it. Okay. Let's dip. I'm going to write our fresh floral. That's number 5. Okay. Okay, next up, not the fresh floral, the fruity floral, the true floral. We're going to start with phenyl ethyl alcohol. This, I would imagine, combined with what else we're going to put in here and the stuff we just put in here, helps create the rose accord. Phenyl ethyl alcohol in my nose it's voluminous. It fills my nose, but it's not overpowering. It feels heavy, it feels full, but it's not edgy. It's smooth. There's almost a transparency to it. Next up, rose oxide. This is a 1% dilution. I believe when I use rose oxide, I've always used it at a 1% dilution in these particular formulas. By these particular formulas, I mean formulas where I'm blending mostly pre-diluted materials and I'm ending with something between 10 and 20% concentrate. If there's rose oxide, the rose oxide is always at 1%. It's just a very strong material. Next up, Damascenone. This is Damascenone Total. Very fruity. Very fruity and dark. Let's see if one drop does it. Yeah, one drop does it. And last up, an interesting material I like very much, but I don't think I use it a lot. I should try to figure out how to use it more. It's Givescone. It's a Givaudan product, and it's hard to describe. It's definitely a floral material, but it's rosy, it's spicy, it's fruity. It's almost got a woodiness to it. It smells lovely. But it reminds me, it has a similar nature as phenyl ethyl alcohol, where It's in my nose. I can smell it. I can sense it. It's relatively full, but it's not cutting. You know, it's not edgy. It's soft. It's round. Okay. Let's cap it. Shake it. Then we're going to dip it. Label it warm floral, and then we have one more group, and then we get to test. Okay, we've got 3 more, and this is kind of a mishmash. We have Methyl Isoeugenol, a very small amount of Methyl Isoeugenol. This stuff is nice. It's like eugenol in that it's warm and spicy. Boy, there's not much here. Yeah, not much at all. Okay, let's do our lemon next. There is virtually no lemon in here. I don't know what this lemon's going to do. Maybe it accentuates the safranal, which we're about to put in, but 0.06 grams of this at 10% dilution means that there's 0.4% of the concentrate is in lemon. Usually putting this amount of lemon in something doesn't move the needle. This must be more for color at the opening, but it doesn't really move the needle. And last up, safranal. Now this stuff is strong. The amount I have in here is about 1.5 drops. And this stuff is so strong, I'm worried that if I overdo it, you know, how precise can I get? Maybe I should use 0.01%. And then, oof, boy, that's so strong. Let's just do it. 1 drop. Okay. I need to get to 0.02 grams. But this stuff is so strong. I don't want to overdo it. I think that'll do. I'm 1/1000th of a gram off. That might be within the margin of error for this particular scale, so we're not going to worry about it. Let's shake. Get it all mixed. Let's dip. Okay. This is the final. And then let's evaluate. Before we evaluate, I'm going to put this on my skin. Oop. I'm going to try to keep that away from my nose. And let's smell. So let's smell the base. This was all the musks except for Cashmeran, Norlimbanol, Hedione, ISO-E Super. Interesting that there wasn't much musk ketone, but you can get that fatty nitromusk aspect from the musk ketone. This feels heavy. This is, there's a lot on here. It feels heavy because I was using neat materials. It's not really popping off the strip. Not that these base materials would, but given that there is quite a bit of Hedione in here, I would expect that it would be coming off the strip more, but it's not. So let's see what happens when we add our ambers, because with that, all I'm really getting is ISO-E Super and musk ketone. That's all that I'm getting off the strip. Next up, all the ambers. The super ambers, Amber Extreme, Ambrocenide, and then we have Ambroxan, Cedramber, and Cashmeran. And this smells very nice. I'm getting the Amber Extreme and the Ambrocenide. It still feels heavy. It still feels like the neat materials are weighing it down. If I had blended a whole bunch of ethanol in this, I think this would be different. But as it stands now, it's heavy. I'm barely getting the Cashmeran. That's how heavy it is. Next up, we added all of our sweet materials. A lot of ethyl maltol, ethyl vanillin, and vanillin. And this is nice. Still heavy, a little bit lighter because the ethyl vanillin, I'm getting a lot of ethyl vanillin. Yeah, it's just pushing, helping to lift it, give it some sweetness, give it some warmth. Then we added a lot of Veramoss and a little bit of Cedarwood. Let's see. This is very nice. This adds a wonderful color to the base that we've been creating. That's very nice. Lovely, lovely, lovely. The fresh floral. This is the Citronellol, Citronellyl Acetate, Geranyl Acetate, Ethyl Linalool, Dihydromyrcenol, Linalyl Acetate. Let's see what we get. This, combined with the Veramoss, is perfect. Because the Veramoss, it has that mossiness to it. But with Veramoss, there is like a top line smell to it. It's a little bright. Metallic isn't the right word for me. But there is a little something on top. What all of these fresh metallic florals do is give that top edge a little more color, a little more floral nature. But they work really well together. It's still sweet. Still getting the vanillin, ethyl vanillin, ethyl maltol. Still getting the Musk Ketone and the stuff underneath. Next up, the warm florals. Phenyl ethyl alcohol, rose oxide, Damascenone, Givescone. Wow, warms it up. Really warms it up. Gives it a beefier floral nature, is what I mean to say. Where previously there was like a kind of a floral note, but it was empty. It was just on the edge. This gives it some body. Last up, Safranal, which is incredibly strong. A little bit of lemon, a little bit of Methyl Isoeugenol. Let's see what happens. Okay, wonderful. I get why they say there's oud as a note in here. The Safranal, combined with everything we already have in here, does give it that oudy quality, but in a leathery direction, a saffron direction, which some ouds have. This smells very nice. I mean, very nice. I haven't smelled the original. I can't say, oh yeah, this is totally like it. But this does smell nice. It's balanced. It's easy. To my nose right now, it's easy. It smells great. It smells absolutely fantastic. Let's see what we get on the skin. Yeah, this smells good. This smells good. I'm going to put a little bit more on here. Now, we are at 17% concentrate. I have a suspicion this is too much. I have a suspicion that if I drop this to 12%, 10%, this is going to pop more. It still feels heavy in my nose. Knowing we put Ambrocenide in it, Amber Extreme, a lot of Cashmeran, the Galaxolide, the Hedione, this should be popping more off my skin. As it stands, it's just a nice, easy to wear fragrance, which is not the comments, has nothing to do with the comments that I'm reading. The comments that I read on Fragrantica are like, wow, this thing is so strong. Let's do an experiment. Let me first label this as Arabians Tonka. Okay, I just need a sticker label here so I can put it on top. Yeah, Arabians Tonka. Now what I'm gonna do is we are going to change the concentrate of this. So we're at 17.5%. For easy math, let's say we're at 18%. If we cut it in half, we'd get to 9. If we moved it back up 50%, where would we be? So I'm going to put 2 pipettes, roughly 2 grams of this juice. Come on. Okay. Good, got that. And then I'm going to put 1 gram of ethanol. And when I do that, I decrease the concentrate by 25%. So if this was at a 20% concentrate, it would move to 15. But as it stands, this is at 17.5%. So it moves to just over 13%. So we're going to give this a shake. We're going to give it a dip. I'm going to put it on the other hand, and we're going to see if changing the concentrate actually changes the pop. Because right now I'm a little underwhelmed by how much it's throwing. Let that dip. Let's put it on the hand. Okay. Cap it. Okay. It's going to be hard to smell this without smelling my hand. Okay, I'm getting a little difference. It's a little brighter. It's not any louder. All right, I think I need to let my nose rest. All in all, I think this is a fine formula. I haven't smelled the original. It is not as strong as I can smell right now as the comments that I read about this fragrance. Now that said, it smells balanced, it smells blended. It smells like it's easy to wear. It's ambery, it's woody, it's a little bit rosy without, but not rose focused. This is really nice. I'm gonna let my nose rest. I'm gonna come back to this and smell today, tomorrow. But I like this. I think this is great. I hope you whip it up. As usual, give this a try. If you make any subs, put it in the comments. If you want to add coumarin, for example, or tonka bean, do so. And then put it in the comments. Let us know how it goes. And as always, thanks. I'll see you next time.